In a striking diplomatic turnaround, the United States has removed Mali from its controversial visa bond list just weeks after implementing the policy and days after Bamako fought back with its own restrictions on American travelers. The reversal marks a rare retreat for the Trump administration on immigration policy and signals that Mali's decision to impose reciprocal measures may have hit its mark. Let's quickly recap how we got here. On October 8th, the US State Department added Mali to its visa bond list, requiring Malian travelers to post bonds of up to $10,000 to obtain American visas. Those restrictions were set to take effect on October 23rd. The US government cited concerns about visa overstays, essentially arguing that too many Malian visitors were remaining in America after their visas expire, and that financial bonds would intensify compliance with visa terms. But in Bamako, the capital of Mali, the move was seen differently, as discriminatory, punitive, and disrespectful to a nation that has had diplomatic relations with the United States for decades. In a bold tit-for-tat response, Mali announced its own reciprocal policy requiring Americans to post exact same $10,000 bond to visit the West African nation. Now, in the latest development, the US State Department's updated visa bond list no longer includes Mali. The West African nation has been quietly removed, marking what appears to be a thaw in US-Mali relations. While Mali was recently removed from this list, 6 other African countries remain. Those are Mauritania, Sao Tome and Principe, Tanzania, the Gambia, Malawi, and Zambia. So citizens from these 6 countries still have to pay this massive bond, even higher than what Mali was required to pay just to get a temporary visa. Why Mali was removed but not the others? What made Mali different? Was it because Mali decided to push back because they imposed reciprocal measures on the US? If that's the reason, then it kind of sends a message that this policy is negotiable, that it's not necessarily based on objective criteria like visa overstay rates or compliance, but more on whether a country is willing or able to fight back. But maybe there is more to it. Mali has been going through major shifts recently, politically, economically, and diplomatically as well. The country has been repositioning itself in the Sahel region, rethinking its partnerships and asserting more independence in international affairs. Could that have played a role in how the US responded? Could it be that geopolitical considerations rather than just immigration metrics influenced Mali's removal? Because when you look at the bigger picture, the US State Department hasn't actually provided a clear explanation. There has been no transparent outline of what qualifies a country to be added or removed from the visa bond list. No mention of what exactly Mali did differently. And that lack of clarity makes the policy look, well, arbitrary. It starts to feel less like a rule grounded in evidence and more like a tool of leverage, something that can be applied or lifted depending on diplomatic relationships or negotiations behind the scenes. So for citizens of Mauritania, Sao Tome and Principe, Tanzania, the Gambia, Malawi, and Zambia, the question now becomes, why us? Why are we still on the list while Mali is off it? And most importantly, what exactly needs to change for these countries to be removed too? Because if the US is serious about fairness and transparency in its visa system, then these are questions that deserve clear and honest answers. So what does this whole episode tell us? To me, it reveals a few important lessons about how international power dynamics still play out today, not just about the visa bond list. First, it's a clear reminder that reciprocity still matters in global relations. Even in an era where the balance of power feels heavily titled towards stronger nations, Mali's case shows that smaller countries can push back, and when they do it strategically, they can actually make a difference. Mali challenged a policy it saw as unfair, and the US responded. That alone conveys a powerful point. Second, this could encourage other nations still on the list or those facing similar restrictions to think differently about how they engage. Maybe if Mali's decision to respond in kind led to results, it makes you wonder, could others adopt a similar approach? And if they did, would the United States be willing to listen? And of course, there is the issue of credibility. When a policy like the visa bond can be introduced and then quietly reversed within weeks, it highlights significant concerns about consistency and transparency. Was the policy based on genuine concerns about visa overstays, or was it simply a political instrument, one that could be adjusted depending on who pushes back the hardest? That uncertainty undermines trust and makes US immigration policy look less like a system guided by data and more like one shaped by diplomacy and pressure. And finally, there is the broader relationship between the United States and Africa. The US has significant strategic interests across the continent, from counterterrorism cooperation to trade and even competition with China and Russia for influence. Heavy-handed policies like visa bonds risk pushing away key partners, and that can have long-term consequences. For African countries weighing their alliances and partnerships, moments like this matter. So looking ahead, there are several key questions. Will the remaining 6 countries decide to take a stand like Mali did? Do they have the diplomatic leverage or the domestic political support to do so? And on the US side, will policymakers rethink this approach? Will they continue to use visa bonds as a form of enforcement, or start recognizing that such measures can damage relationships with entire regions? For now, Mali has achieved a diplomatic win. A small nation that stood up to the world's most powerful country and managed to shift the conversation. It's hard to say whether this will mark a real turning point or just a brief shift in a much bigger geopolitical game. What Mali's move does make clear, though, is that even smaller nations can influence the rules of the game. Sometimes the most effective way to respond to pressure is through equal and strategic pressure of your own. That's a look at how Mali is reshaping the rules of diplomacy. This is African Insights with Hikmah. If you found this discussion interesting, make sure to subscribe, like, and join the conversation in the comments below. Do you think other countries will follow Mali's lead? Stay tuned for more stories and analysis from across the continent.